Good morning, everybody. This is going to be the last shift for a few days. Live over here in Mitzvah. The next shift, the next shift, Be'ez Hashem, will come to you from New York City. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach. I hope to continue to give you shalom. I hope we should have time. Siyat Shmaya, time koiches to give a shift from New York to the Olam. Okay, Rabbi Say, I did get an email. I got an email from a Choshva doctor in America that he was very, very nervous. It's Choshva Yid, by the way. Very Choshva Yid, I know him. Choshva Yid, a doctor in America. And he was very, very nervous. Are you allowed? He said, I just bought my kids black suits, and you said in Shir yesterday, he's holding mamish with the suit. He said in Shir that Yaris Vash, it's a Maisa Sutton to wear black on Shabbos Kodesh. Should I return the suits? It was a Shaila Locha Maisa. Asha, you hear the Shaila? Yeah? Gewaltige Shaila. So I told him that, no, as always, that's the minig. The minig is that we wear black. Oh, but I think the Yaris Vash was just giving us the stark ability. Rabbi, it's a new word. Asha. You with me? The stark ability of wearing black. Wow. Okay? So you took a word, you got that word? And then you made it more not. That's right. That's good. Okay? Shmuel, you with me on that word? I love that word. That's a good word. We just made it up right now. You heard it here first. It's real. You heard it here first. The Yaris Vas was making the stark ability of wearing black so good that we should know how careful we have to be. That's all. But Avada, we can wear black. There's no problem. Avada is okay. Oh, but the Olam will ask you a few questions. Let me continue a little bit yesterday. Then we'll move on to today's sugya. And that is, what about, for example, dealing with dust, which is again what the Ramah Paskins, Rashi, whatever, that taking dust out of a beged is an issa d'oraisa of Melaben on Shabbos. What about shoes? Very negeya when you have leather shoes, for example, right? You got leather shoes, boots, whatever, and you want to wipe off the dust on Shabbos Kodesh, and it could be so dirty and so dusty that you're actually makpid, that you would not wear it in that way, which is what we said yesterday, is subject to the issa of Melaben. So the answer is that Avada, there's no problem of taking off and removing dust from leather, and the simple reason is because it's not absorbed. The one thing you cannot do with leather is scrub it and rub it, because there it's soft and it does absorb in some level. There is some absorption, and therefore if that's the case, Asha, and therefore if that's the case, scrubbing it, rubbing it will be problematic, which is not so negay when it comes to, hey, I don't know if my baseball is so good, but there it is. He's good. Okay. Rebbe's team. If we played on the yeshiva team, by the way. All right. Bekitza, where are we? So dust on leather, right? Dust on leather, to take it off the dust, dubi, no problem whatsoever. To scrub it off, that will be problematic. That's avada. So cleaning your shoes will be problematic if they're muddy. No. You can take a dry tissue and just scrub off not scrub, you can just lightly take off the dust. If you're going to start taking it, there's a stain on your leather shoes, start scrubbing it down, that will be problematic. Now, what happens, and this is very negeya, because it rained today, Baruch Hashem, you got Gishmei Bracha here in Eretz Yisrael. Our tefillahs are being answered by the Rabbeinu Shalom, which is Gavaldik. And the question is a few things. Number one, if it's muddy. If you get mud on your shoes, right? We'll talk about mud and other things in a moment, but there is a big difference, by the way, if it's soft or if it's hard. Because if the mud is hard, then there is a problem of what? Hello? Rabbi Witzestein said Teuchen, Gavaldig, and he's correct. There's a problem of Teuchen. That means when you've got a clump of mud and you dismantle the clump of mud, that's what Teuchen is. Teuchen is taking one unit and taking it into smaller pieces, making it to smaller particles. And therefore, because of that, that's the reason why you've got to be careful if it's dry mud to take it off as well. Now, if it's wet mud, obviously without scrubbing the leather, just taking off the mud, if it's wet, moist, then there is not going to be a problem in that case. Moving on to another question when it comes to rain, and that is shaking your beged from the rain. Now, this is also very negeya. Because let's say you're walking out in the rain, and you get rain on your jacket, on your coat, whatever it may be, and you come inside, or before you come inside, Simcha, you want to give a shake to make sure that all the liquid is off. Actually, the halacha is, and it really depends, the Gemara tells us, it depends on whether you're makpid or ain't makpid, but the halacha is that it's a problem, simply because the liquid generally has some kind of absorbed, it goes into the beged, it goes into the garment, and therefore by shaking it, you're basically either doing schita, and also because the wetness can change the appearance of the beged, it can cause it to get creased, to shrink, and whatever, you're makpid on it, so by taking it out, that could be a problem of taking it out. By the way, it's nageya by stramel, right? For those people over here that are planning like a stramel, that if it gets wet and you come back inside and you don't want it to remain wet, so you give it a shake, that's going to be a problem. That's why you need a Regenstrammel. It is correct, yeah. Okay, fine. But for those people that don't have, they cannot shake it. The Aruch HaShulchan says, tell people this. It's not a chumrah. It's mikadin. Okay? That's Zusammen to Borough Park. Okay, we'll make Shabbos. Okay. No, it doesn't work. Okay. Well, maybe we'll start it. I don't know. No, it didn't come out too well. I hear. So shaking the shtrammel from the rain is going to be problematic, and also your coat, unless it's plastic or rubber or anything like that, then obviously that will be different in that case. Rabbi said, let's move on. Very, very important. Let's discuss Melaben on the, so to speak, the most principal level, the ikka level of Melaben, which is cleaning. What happens if a person gets a stain on his jacket, on his shirt, on his pants, whatever it may be? He gets a clump of cholent, he gets mud, right? It can be very again at the bottom of your pants when it's muddy outside and you're walking. At the bottom of the pants, sometimes gets mud over there, and you want to get rid of it. Okay? What's the halacha? So we have to learn over here a Gemara. The Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Memalav tells us like this. The Gemara says that if you have tit, you have cement, you have mud on a beged, you should rub it on the inside, okay, mibifnim, v'loy mibachutz, as I said the Gemara, right? So Rashi says over there, what does that mean? Rashi says when you rub it on the inside, then it's not muchach, you're doing a ma'aseh kibus. So Rashi, it's not muchach, it's not clear that you're doing an act of cleaning. Masha enkin, Zuk Rashi, when you do it on the inside, then it's okay. So again, the Gemara says clearly, you can rub it on the inside, you cannot rub it on the outside. What exactly does that mean? So there are a few things that I have to know. Number one, when you have a stain, again, you get a piece of cholent on your beged, on your shirt, on your pants, you have mud, all these sorts of things. I want to get it off. Chaim Shulam. What do I do? Okay? So the Gemara says, mibifnim v'loy mibachutz. What does that mean? First, number one, if it's shayach toichin, it's not nageya. Toichin means, as we all know, from Siman Shin Chav Aleph, that if you have something that it grows from the ground, it came from the ground, right? It's geduloi min karka that is subject to toichin. That's why we need cucumbers have a shayach to toichin. Eggs, on the other hand, do not. Don't ask me if kiv egg is kasher. The eggs come from animals, and animals get nizam for the karka. That we're not going into. But in a simple way, egg is not shayach toichin, which means an egg you're allowed to mash down into many small pieces on Shabbos Kodesh, right? The savada. You can't use a clean yochad lekach, that everybody knows, but that you're allowed. A cucumber, you can't cut into very small pieces because that would be toichin, right? Zav, you with me? Clear. Very good. The question is, when I got a piece of cholent on the sleeve, now it depends what it is. If it's, for example, a piece of potato, so a potato comes from, very good, comes from the ground, and therefore, if it comes from the ground, it's subject to toichin, which means if the potato is dry and you're scraping it off, shmiel, when you scrape off a potato that's dry, what's going to happen? It's going to crumble. So without knowing, forget about Melaben, which is over and also, but he's also in Toich, he's also over on Isidorais of Toichin. So a person has to know what it is. If it's a piece of flesh, so meat, again, without Reb Kivikas Kasha, Zev, I know bothering you, but don't let it bother you, Reb Kivikas Kasha. Or but if you have a piece of flesh that's stuck onto you, and you're scraping it off, that's not a problem of toichin, because that's meat. Meat does not grow from the ground. And therefore you have to know, number one, is it subject to toichin? That's number one. If it's not subject to toichin, then you have a problem of Melaben, which means like this. You have to know the difference between mibachutz and mibifnim, okay? So the basic idea is like this. Okay, it's an interesting one, but let me make it very clear. This is better that way. No, you know what? I'll just do it on my own. It's easier. Okay, like this. Mibifnim means that if I turn the two sides of the fabric and I scrape it that way, in other words, the stain is on the inside, and I take two sides of the fabric and I scrape them against each other and I clean the beged that way, that's a problem. Whereas, if I do it in a way where the stain is on the outside, and I simply just grab the two ends and I sort of loosen it by doing that. Anyone knows what I'm talking about? You see what I mean? Yeah? Yeah, Shimon, you with me? That is okay, providing that it's number one, not a subject to toichin, like it's not a piece of potato or something like that. And also, you're not getting rid of the entire stain. Because if you get rid of the entire stain, that's mamash Melaben. You have to leave, says the Mishnah Berurah, a little bit still there in the beged, what's absorbed inside and what's in the fabric, that's okay. But the top layer, that's just crusty, that's just crumbly on the top, that would be okay in that case. So that's why a person has to know. If it's lach, also, by the way, if you get a piece of cholent, mom is stuck on a piece of mud, it's still moist, and you want to get it off, so you take your nail, or you take a knife, or you take something sharp, and you want to scrape it off, but edsem, that's not a problem. It's not a problem of toichin, because it's not not going to get crumbled. And it's not a problem with Melaben because I'm leaving the stain in. I'm just taking the top layer. You understand what I'm saying? If I got a piece of mud, it goes over here right now, a whole clump, it's still moist, right? It's no problem of Teichen. I take a knife and I slowly scrape it off. I take my fingers, I scrape it off carefully, but I leave a stain inside. If I get down to the actual foundation of the stain and I go into the absorption of the cloth and I go inside and I take that which is absorbed into the material, that's obviously going to be Melaben. Okay, so Rabbi say, let's go again. Very, very important. Nageya. Dust on leather shoes is going to be okay to take off. You can't rub it. To go and shake your coat with a stramel, that would be a problem if you are makpid, and especially if it's absorbed inside. Number 3, that we learned today as well, stains and things like that you have. Number 1, if it's subject to toichin, if it's nageya to something that could be crumbled, and if it's crumbled, it means that you're taking off something, you're making it to smaller particles, which is obviously the issa of toichin. Therefore, that is going to be problematic. And if it's not subject to toichin, meaning it does not go from the ground, then the halacha is, it depends if I'm going down to the crunch of the actual fabric, I'm taking all the whole stain off, there's nothing left, which is a problem with Melaben, or I'm just taking off the top layer, which is okay. Number 1, of toichin it's not a problem, and Melaben it's not a problem because I'm not going into the beged itself, okay? That is the idea of Melaben, which is very, very important. And we pretty much ended the sugya of Melaben, at least on the Do'oraisa level. There are 2 or 3 sugyas that we still have to visit Mitzvah after the trip that we'll get to, and that is number 1, those people that wear contact lenses. How? Number 2, folding clothing and things like that on Shabbos Kodesh. Again, it's all Gzeiros Mishum Melaben. And number 3, hanging your laundry on Erev Shabbos. If someone's going to see that you did it on Shabbos, they may assume maybe did it on Shabbos, they may assume that you also washed on Shabbos, or Shalav Maris Ayin, that maybe Be'ez Hashem, we will get to Be'ez Hashem B'siyat Dishmaya. Shkoyach Habayis Tzlach Rabba.